I did the other day when I did a video showing this, and this would be the Ford, I believe he called it, but he wrote it a year later, or it was published a year later. Come on, pop up. Okay, Murder by Injection. Funny, I had this book for a decade and never got around to read it because I already read other books related, similar to it, like James P. Carter's book, The Racketeering and Medicine. I said, I don't need to read any more of that. I already read enough. But yet I really like Eustace's angle on it. Look at the table of contents: the medical monopoly, quacks on quackery, the profits of cancer, death and vaccination, the fluoridation conspiracy, wither AIDS, the action of fertilizers, contamination of the food supply, the drug test, the Rockefeller syndicate. Now let's look at the forward. And let me see if I can't do something real quick. See if you guys can read that. I'm going to see if I can't put something over this darn window. I'll know to do this in the future so that I won't have that coming through like that. Did that help? It was well worth the effort, I think. Yes, it was. Good. All right. The present work, the result of some 40 years of investigative research, is a logical progression from my previous books, The Expose of the International Control of Monetary Issue and Banking Policy of the United States, a later work revealing the secret network of organizations through which these alien forces yield political power, the secret committees, foundations, and political parties through which their hidden plans are implemented, and now to the most vital issue of all, the manner in which these depredations affect the daily lives of health of American citizens. Despite the great power of the hidden rulers, I found that only one group has the power to issue life or death sentences to any American, our nation's physicians. Okay, I'm going to close that file and moving on out. What does that say? It says that Eustace Mullins was the grandfather of the Federal Reserve movement. So a lot of people know him from that. But you can tell he studied all the pieces of the puzzle. He understood how the world worked by people using usury to control our monetary system. Then he came to the conclusion that, oh my God, it has to go with doctors. So that's why I say everything in our society of any significance has everything to do with our health, or more importantly, our lack of health. That's why I'm closing these files out. That's why this system has to be controlled. Now, the usury, the way the money works is they use money as the absolute tool of control. Here we go. The Knights Templar forbade usury. Anyway, I don't want to go into that. So again, it goes back to how this is the big piece of the puzzle right here. It's all a magic act. The people who rule the world are tricking us. It's one big con, and what they have to do is they have to control what our doctors know. For by sorceries all nations are deceived. We're deceived. We're misled. So that's why, if you go back to the very first quotes I showed, why I somewhat questioned whether or not Shelton really understood that. Is it about money? Or is it about the private owners of the earth? He knew they existed, but I don't think he understood how important the health aspect was of it. That's how they control us. Again, here he says that if the principles of the hygiene school are true, they overthrow all the teachings to destroy all the practices of medical schools and render useless all their great libraries of accumulated lore. But more than this, it's about all these other industries, the meat industry, the dairy industry, the processed food industry. But it's not about money. All those things, everything, the medicine and food, these are weapon systems that are used to destroy us. And this is the piece that I don't think Shelton was able to come to, or at least I haven't read anything that makes me think he understood that. I'm sure if the internet was available back then, he sure would have found it like I found it. So what is the message that we want to take home from this? Well, we got to realize that it all started from the very beginning. The Shaman, remember Tim O'Shea? Control of health and sickness was a position of power. Again, everything is based on us being sick. And now we have a corrupt system where we pass mandatory health insurance. Let me think. What was the name of that one quote by? How does that quote by Lenin go? I'm going to pull that up in a second. In the meantime, what I want to do is I'm going to finish this this video off, and it's already taking too long. It'll take forever for me to upload it with my slow internet speed. Let me show you my file on conspiracies, because a lot of people can't deal with this. And I'm sure those people aren't around anymore, so maybe I should have started off with this one. Here's my file on conspiracy. 9/11 explosive evidence experts speak out. Well, the reason I love what they said here. It's all about fear. People don't want to know we live in hell. That's what it's all about. In fact, let me very quickly start off this discussion by going here. Let me pull that file up. And if you haven't seen this and you still believe in the official story of 9/11, oh, that's not going to take because of that. Anytime there's a dash in my system, it doesn't work. What's the easiest way to get to this? I guess I'm just going to have to do it the old-fashioned way. Put this back in this way and come to the top. 9/11. There we go. Okay. This was really a good video. This is a must-see video. Architects and Engineers for 9/11 Truth. This is the expert package feature-length pre-released versus 1.3 low-resolution documentary by Architects and Engineers for 9/11 Truth. When these 1,500 architects and engineers analyze what's going on, they're saying there's no way the official story can be true, that Building 7 is the smoking gun. It was obviously wired. It was controlled, demolished. No way they could have done that in time. It was done ahead of time. So if that building was wired, we know they're all wired. And let me think. I don't know if yeah, here it is. See the red? Fear, 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 fear. This section here, they talked about, why are these people having such a hard time dealing with it? Again, it has to do with the fear. Denial protects people from this kind of anxiety. So they simply will not believe something that they fear to be the truth. As I thought about all these responses, I realized that what was in common to every one of them is the emotion of fear. People are afraid of being ostracized. They're afraid of being alienated. They're afraid of being shunned. They're afraid of their lives being inconvenienced. That have to change their lives. They're afraid of being confused. They're afraid of psychological deterioration. They're afraid of feeling helpless and vulnerable. And they're afraid they won't be able to handle the feelings that are coming up. None of us want to feel helpless and vulnerable, so we want to defend ourselves, and the way we often do that is with anger. So then we become angry, and when we become angry, then we become indignant, we become offended, we want to ridicule the messenger, we want to apologize, we want to pathologize the messenger, and we want to censor the messenger. Apologize didn't make any sense. So how can we overcome this resistance and denial? The first thing is to meet people where they are at. Again, here's a recap. Trauma, cognitive dissonance, fear and anxiety, denial, lack of humility, pride, exceptionalism. Exceptionalism. Oh, I should have brought that. Do y'all know what exceptionalism is? Let me see. Exceptionalism. British and American exceptionalism. Is this all about blowback? See, I haven't looked at some of these files in so long. The indifference of Americans to others flows from American exceptionalism, the belief that Americans are graced with a special mission to impose their virtue on the rest of the world. Like the French revolutionaries, Americans don't seem to care how many people they kill at the process of spreading their exceptionalism. So again, British and American exceptionalism. All right, let's go ahead and get out of here. Back to my file on conspiracies. So again, what we see here is the fear that people, one of the reasons why we can't accept conspiracies. But the main reason has to do with what happened with the CIA. Now this file here, it's a 540-page file. These are funny. Okay, how do I tell them? How do I wake these stupid sheeple up? Conspiracy theorists, wacko, kook. So that's what they call people who dig deeper and are actually quite well informed. Sheeple, the ultimate government creation. Conspiracy is a crime, not a theory. Conspiracy, an evil, unlawful, treacherous, or superstitious plan formulated in secret by two or more people. Plot, What I want to look for here is, here it is right here. Both these findings are amplified, blah, 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 blah. The term was invented. Let me go right here. I'm going to copy and paste this and take it down, and or do I want to go into, now let's go, I'll just stay right here. Both these findings are amplified in the new book, Conspiracy Theory in America, by political scientist Lance DeHaven Smith, published earlier this year by the University of Texas Press. Professor DeHaven Smith explains why people don't like being called conspiracy theorists. The term was invented and put into wide circulation by the CIA to smear and defame people questioning the JFK assassination. The CIA's campaign to popularize the term conspiracy theory and make conspiracy belief a target of ridicule and hostility must be credited, unfortunately, with being one of the most successful propaganda initiatives of all time. In other words, people who use the word conspiracy theory and conspiracy theorist as an insult are doing so as a result of a well-documented, undisputed, historically real conspiracy by the CIA to cover up the JFK assassination. That puts things in perspective, doesn't it? Here we go. JFK described it like this: "We are opposed around the world by a monolithic and ruthless conspiracy." Now you can hear this speech online, by the way, if you all are interested. "That relies primarily on covert means for expanding its spheres of influence, on infiltration instead of invasion, on subversion instead of elections, on intimidation instead of free choice. It is a system which has conscripted vast human and material resources into the building of a tightly knit and highly effective machine that combines military, diplomatic, intelligence, economic, scientific, and political operations. Its preparations are concealed, not published. Its mistakes are buried, not headlined. Its dissenters are silenced, not praised. No expenditure is questioned. No secret is revealed." Later, when trying to conduct an investigation into Kennedy's assassination, the director of the FBI, J. Edgar Hoover, echoed Kennedy's sentiments when he said, "The individual is handicapped by coming face to face with a conspiracy so monstrous he cannot believe it exists." See, this is what we're up against, my friends. The people who rule the world know how to trick and fool the masses. They understand what Schopenhauer meant when he said all truth goes through 3 steps. First, it's ridiculed. Then it's violently opposed. Then it's accepted as self-evident. So what happens when you want to discredit somebody? It's real simple. You just laugh at them. It's real easy to laugh at people who are telling the truth and call them conspiracy theorists and think you're right. Why? Because you're on the side of the majority. But remember what Mark Twain said. Whenever you're on the side of the majority, it's time to pause and reflect. And I always like to add on to that and ask ourselves the question that would apply at that point. So, the medical profession is a conspiracy to hide its own shortcomings. No doubt the same may be said of all professions. They are all conspiracies against the laity. Until there is practicable alternative to blind trust in the doctor, the truth about the doctor is so terrible that we dare not face it. George Bernard Shaw, The Doctor's Dilemma. Okay, so I'm not going to go into any detail on conspiracies. The point of this is that we have to keep an open mind. We have to realize what Agenda 21 is all about. We have to understand how con artists work and controlled opposition. We have to understand that it all has to do with the dark side of our behavior. And the MO of these psychopaths is to divide and conquer. And if we look at the Fabian Society, let's take a quick look at that file. The Fabian Society was put together a little over 100 years ago, and they realized long ago that, look, man, people are waking up too quickly. If we're not careful how we do this, people will wake up. So they put a long-term plan in effect to control us. The urge to save humanity is almost always a false face for the urge to rule it. H.L. Mencken. Read 1984, George Orwell. Read real name Eric Blair. It wasn't coming from his imagination. He had access to the projected agenda through the Fabian Society. Exactly the same Fabian Society that Aldous Huxley was a member of. And thus had inside knowledge to write a prophetic novel called Brave New World. They were coming from knowledge of what the projection was. Huxley, it seems, supporting it, and Orwell not supporting it, trying to expose it. But it is still the same source of where it came from. This has been going on for so long now. When you look at 1984, written by George Orwell, when it was published, guess what happened to Orwell? He died. Same time. Do I have that in there somewhere? I'm sure I do, but As you can see, the Fabian Society is something we need to understand. The English Labor Society. Let me see here. There's some things in here that will blow you people away. See, crime of 73, that's when they took away bimetallism. 1913, that's the Federal Reserve Act, so there's 40 years there. Fabian Society was founded in 1884. Orwell's book was 1984, 100 years later. Interesting. There are white papers. You don't know white papers. All those are government papers that admit what they're doing. United Nations. I was just connecting dots here. FDA, EPA, USDA. The Fabian Society implements world socialism incrementally through legislation. That's what the Fabian Society is all about. Social change doesn't take place in USA unless the central bankers and their media assets support it. Their long-term plan for world dictatorship is disguised as a spontaneous grassroots revolt. While these movements rectify many genuine injustices, their hidden purpose is to destabilize and undermine American society. Now, Aaron Russo had a conversation with Rockefeller. And let's take a quick look at that file. Whoops. Aaron Russo. Okay, he produced Trading Places with Eddie Murphy and The Rose with Bette Midler. Okay, Aaron Russo talks with Ron Paul. Here's in part of the Zeitgeist. Okay, this is interesting. This was Nelson Rockefeller and Rousseau's voice. So this is a conversation between, Rousseau was recounting a conversation he had with Nelson Rockefeller. There's going to be an event, Aaron. We're going to go into Afghanistan so we can run pipelines from the Caspian Sea. We're going to go into Iraq to take the oil and establish base in the Middle East. And we are going into Venezuela and get rid of Chavez. Aaron Rousseau. And the first two they've accomplished, Chavez they didn't accomplish. Nelson Rockefeller, again in Rousseau's voice, by having this war on terror, you can never win it because it's an eternal war. So you can always keep taking people's liberties away. Rousseau, how are you going to convince people that this war is real? Rockefeller in Rousseau's voice once again, by the media. The media convince everybody that it's real. The media was bought in America in 1915, and most people are so clueless that they believe almost everything they're told. Okay, going on here. Rousseau, what are you doing this for? What's the point of this? What are the ultimate goals here? The ultimate goal, according to Nelson Rockefeller, is to get everybody in this world chipped with an RFID chip and have all money and everything be on these chips. And if anybody wants to protest, well, what we do or violate what we want, we just turn off the chip. Interesting. How about where is the mention of feminism? I guess I could just go to that file. Feminism. Let's just go to that file. Okay, folks. Feminism. And okay, feminism was created to destabilize society. While these movements rectify many genuine injustices, their hidden purpose is to destabilize and undermine American society. We just read that the other day. I was just in the other file, right? Social change doesn't take place in the USA unless the central bankers and their media assets sponsor it. Again, I just read that. Rousseau recalls his conversation with one of the Rockefellers, who told him that they created and financed the women's lib movement so they could tax another half of the population. And so the children would be trained by them in government schools rather than in the context of the family unit. The hidden goal of feminism is to destroy the family, which interferes with state brainwashing of the young. Side benefits include depopulation and widen the tax base. Displacing men in the role of providers also destabilizes the family. Now, you talk to any woman and she might find this offensive if she doesn't understand how the world works. If they understand how things work, they understand, like we said before, that these movements rectified many genuine injustices, but there's a hidden purpose. Wake up, people. I'll save it. Okay, what else here? Aaron Rousseau, that's enough of that. How about Agenda, Granding Down America? Now, that's a really good documentary. That's worth watching. that's where they point out, let's forget the conspiracies. There's an overall agenda. You can tell. In fact, let's go ahead and go to that file. This is a worthwhile video to watch. Basically, as you can tell, what I do, again, darn it, anything that has a dash in it, it won't take with it. And this is the easiest way for me to pull up a file. Instead of going to my list of files, this will find it and bring it right up. Okay, agenda grinding. Again, this is a great video to watch. So again, what I was saying, whenever I study something, I just create a file for it so then I can highlight it and remember it better. I always like to have everything flush. Okay, let's see here. This movie asks the question, are we losing control of our democratic republic from within by communist infiltrators disguising and seeding their ideals and social issues, gay marriage, environmentalism, education, feminism, religion, to reach us and most easily our children? If you believe that the film Infiltration is well established on a macro basis across all avenues of American society, if you believe the film, okay. So please do not focus on the one issue that affects your personal views. Look at the big picture. Hey, I'd forgotten I read that. I actually said the same thing the other day. If there's one thing you don't like, don't throw everything else out. So this movie will help you connect the dots as to what is going on in our country right before our eyes right now. The movie weaves a thread all the way from Karl Marx, ooh, isn't that interesting, and through the UN to the U.S. White House and every branch of government, school system, environmentalism, gays, etc. Okay, what I'm looking for is where they talk about. This is, I gotta say, this started out really good. This is the beginning by Ronald Reagan. Hello, in the traditional motion picture story, villains are usually defeated, and the ending is a happy one. I can make no such promise for the picture you're about to watch. The story isn't over. You and the audience are part of the conflict. I need to use that as the beginning for one of my videos. That's good stuff. That's how this documentary started out. What I'm looking for here is where she talks about, ooh, this is good. This book was a Naked Communist. It had 45 current communist goals. Goal number 26, present homosexuality, degeneracy, and promiscuity as normal, natural, and healthy. Remember, the people who rule the world, that own the media. All they have to do is create a bunch of sitcoms where they portray people that are promiscuous and have tendencies that one would say are not satisfying their needs, and present them as, oh, look how great they are, it's normal, it's okay. So this is something that, again, this is what really gets me. People don't realize that we're brainwashed, bombarded by bullshit throughout our lives, slowly changing our perspective on how things are. That's how easily we are controlled. The Fabian Socialist, I'm sure I'm going to get some hate comments from people that are feminists or gays now. Let's read this, what it says about feminists. And that goes right along with the feminists of today, which was part of the Frankfurt School's desire to destroy a patriarchal society for a matriarchal society. In other words, remove the father as the loving provider, discipliner, discipler, leader of the home, where you install virtues in integrity and modesty. And that's been broken down on purpose because they knew if they could destroy the family, they could destroy a nation. And instead of having a father that leads and disciplines, leads and disciples that protect the home and provide for the family, the government steps in as a nanny state. The homosexual movement. I'm a student of communism, and the communists set up various groups and societies. Their society that they set up to promote homosexuality in this country was called the Mattachine Society. It was founded by Henry Hay, a leading member of the Communist Party. So since I was studying communism and teaching on the issues of communism, you just follow leads and all of a sudden you realize that this is the Mattachine. I never heard of the Mattachine Society. Well, it was Henry Hay's organization set up to infiltrate the culture of the United States to make homosexuality normal. Now, I'm not against homosexuals. Don't think I'm homophobic. If you look at my schematic, all right, let's take a look at my schematic. Let me explain this as simplistically as I can. If we look at my schematic, we have 12 essential needs, pieces 22 to 35. Okay, now let me show you where this goes real quick. Okay, 22 to 35, they're in yellow. Number 22 is sex, procreation. We have a need to procreate. When we satisfy that need to procreate, which is piece 32, it's going to come over here as piece 81. Where's 81? Nope, I mean 91, sorry. 91, lack of or inappropriate sex procreation. So that's 91. That's if we don't do it. If we do it, then that would be 71. There are 20 different. So if we have sex the way we're supposed to, not with dead people, not with animals, not with the same sex, then we're satisfying that need. We need to procreate. So this is how I look at it. I just look at it naturally. Are we satisfying our needs? Is it natural? Or is it unnatural? Well, if we're not procreating, all the other sex is unnatural. And I'm not judging here. In fact, when we look at this right here, if you're masturbating, guess what? You're not procreating. It's no different than, this is how I look at it, it's no different than having sex with animals. It's no different than having sex with dead people. It's no different than having sex with the same sex. If you're not having sex and you're procreating, you're not satisfying that need. So I'm not being judgmental. I look at it very scientifically. The point here is that the rules of the world are saying, well, don't look at this as something unnatural. They're just born that way. That's not true. We know that they're putting hormones in our food that feminize women and hyper feminize the women. Dr. Pottinger proved that cats fed the cooked food, the males had homosexual tendencies. He'd put them on raw food, and those symptoms would go away. We're not born this way. This is something that's learned. This is behavior that we're learned. I know people are going to really take offense to this. And I'm not, again, judging anybody. I'm just saying that there are signs when we don't promote normal, natural sexual behavior, we don't have 72, we have 92. And that means that we have a problem. Think about it. If everyone on this planet only had sex with animals, dead people, and same sex, and they masturbated, our species would be extinct. It's one of our needs. I'm not condoning it. We don't live in a natural world anymore where we don't have an outlet for normal sexual relationships like they would be if we weren't living in such a sick world. So I'm going on and on about that subject. I didn't think I'd go into that. But again, the point I'm trying to make here is that if we end up with a 103, I look at having sex with dead people the same thing as I do people who have heart attack or heart disease or cancer. They're not satisfying their needs and they have a problem. Oh, you're saying I have a problem because I'm gay? Well, our society does if everyone thinks like you, yes. And have we seen gays throughout our history? Well, after the fall of mankind, yeah, we have seen it. Did it exist prior to the fall of mankind? Good question. Can't go back there and find that out. But again, the thing is, the people who rule the world want us to think it's just natural. And the point I guess I'm really trying to make here is that this is on the increase. There's more of it. And it's just like heart disease on the increase. It's just like cancer on the increase. It's an increase in a symptom by not satisfying our needs. Again, I'm not being judgmental. I'm just saying we either are satisfying our needs or we're not. Okay, so that again comes from the agenda. Martin Luther. The main reason why I brought this file up was to point out that she explains, here it is right here. This is what I was looking for. Time has only allowed me to present a fraction of what I found. The reason I call this film Agenda is because I wanted to make clear a distinction between what I was researching and all the conspiracy theories out there. The dictionary says a conspiracy is an evil plan formulated in secret by two or more persons. But an agenda is simply a list of things to be done. At every turn of my investigation, I found agendas by people and groups of the left outlining their plan in their own words. They've been doing most of this right out in the open. Again, that goes back to the white papers I was telling you about. This is interesting right here. Here's a comment. JR, materialism is the wrong mentality, is an exchange mentality, and the solution is not one of our 10 subsequent needs from having a weak connection to everything around us, religion and our spirituality. No, the solution is for all of us to strengthen our connection so that we can change our mentality back to a gift mentality. And we won't have any more subsequent needs. And then there's no more bullshit about forgiving our sins versus correcting our mistakes. So the whole purpose of all of my videos is to help us understand that we got to get reconnected. We got to strengthen our connection to the divine. This is not no mere sentimental religiosity. It's not about satisfying our subsequent need for religion. These are